creating custom Pokemon for you! Welcome back, everyone, to the show where we select lucky commenters to spin a series of random wheels that give us factors for a Pokemon that we then create just for you. It's gonna be an awesome episode today, y'all. We're gonna make 3 amazing custom Pokemon as always, so if you end up liking today's video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And of course, if you want a custom Pokemon for yourself, don't forget to leave a comment because I'll be randomly selecting people from this video's comments for the next episode. But without further ado, let's get into the first Pokemon. And this one will be for Mimikyu Fan, who said that they've been watching since episode 12. Thanks so much for your patience. So, alright, Mimikyu, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be a Paradox Pokemon. We've been getting a lot of those lately, which is super cool. And it means that now we have to spin this wheel to see what generation of Pokemon will be making a Paradox form for, and it's Gen 4. That's one of my personal favorites. And of course, now we'll spin this wheel that has every single Gen 4 Pokemon on it, and we got Ambipom. That is definitely one of the stranger Pokemon from Gen 4, so this isn't gonna be easy. And every Paradox form keeps at least one of its old typings, so we know that it'll stay normal type, but let's still spin to get a secondary type, and it's the bug type. That is definitely weird because first off, a normal bug type has never existed in Pokemon before, but also a bug type Ambipom is just crazy. And the last and most important step before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it's a past or future Paradox form, and it is a past Paradox. Nice. We're gonna need an Exterminator and an Exorcist. Your Pokemon is Crawling Creep, the upside down Pokemon. It may be hard to tell at first, but this Pokemon is not what it seems, as its true form is actually much closer to the friendly and non-threatening Ambipom that we know today. However, in the ancient Pokemon world, friendly is the last thing you want to look like, as there is no shortage of extremely dangerous hunters who love anything that looks like an easy meal. So in an effort to look more unsettling, Crawling Creep is known to contort its body upside down, wrapping its 4 long arms behind it and lowering the crown on its forehead, causing it to resemble some sort of giant, unnatural arachnid. And with this new look, Crawling Creep is just off-putting enough to scare away most would-be threats. In terms of stats, Crawling Creep has very good speed as well as physical attack. However, the rest of its stats are pretty bad, so it's definitely a glass cannon sweeper. And for the shiny, I went with this green color because it made it feel more like an insect. But now let's get into the second Pokemon. And this one will be for Lord Rayquaza, who said that they've seen the full series 2 times. That's awesome. So alright, Rayquaza, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be regular. Now let's see how many times your Pokemon can evolve, and you are going to get 2, which makes you a full 3-stage evolution line. Now let's see what typing your Pokemon's going to be. Your first type is going to be the Fire type. That is one of my favorite types to make designs for, and Fire Poison type. That is very unique typing. And the last step, before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and none this time. Oh, it's just a platypus. The first stage of your Pokemon is Pyroplus, the Magma Diver Pokemon. These Pokemon are known for their incredible ability to resist heat, as they can often be found living near active volcanoes where they treat the large pools of volcanic magma as if they were a typical swimming pool, even assembling in large groups to splash and play around in environments that would burn most Pokemon to a crisp. At level 21, it would evolve into Magma Plus. These Pokemon have weaponized their heat-resistant abilities, as they're now able to not only endure extreme temperatures, but can also contain them within their body, storing up bursts of fiery energy which it uses to power its attack, which include launching it from the top of their head in a manner that would make Squidward tentacles proud, or alternatively seep it out slowly, filling the battlefield in a toxic volcanic ash that will eventually leave the enemy struggling to breathe. When exposed to a firestone, it would evolve into Vulcaplus. Very few Pokemon ever completely master their elemental abilities, but this one has, as it uses its immunity to heat to not only power its attack, but it also uses it defensively, as it's known to perpetually cover its own body in a liquid magma that will instantly fry anything that gets too close. And when you add that to its constantly billowing toxic ash and its humongous claws, you get one of the most terrifying fighters in the Pokemon world. In terms of stats, Vulcaplus is very tanky, and it even has pretty solid physical attack. But for balancing reasons, of course, I made it speed pretty low. And for the shiny, I went with this green color because it made the lava look more like toxic sludge. But now let's get into the third Pokemon. But before we get into the final Pokemon, it's time for the member modifier. This is the segment of the show where we take a fan favorite Pokemon from a previous episode in the series and give it a brand new upgrade. You already know the drill. We are once again giving a brand new evolution to Setamite, which has turned out to be easily the most popular Pokemon of the entire series. And if you don't know, Setamite is a rock-type Pokemon with a split evolution based off RPG classes, as well as the different elemental evolution stones. And so far, it has 6 different evolutions, being Setamage, which is based off the Fire Stone, Sedruid, which is based off the Leaf Stone, Setamunk, which is based off the Water Stone, Setarogue, which is based off the Moon Stone, Setafissur, which is based off the Thunder Stone, and in the last episode, we made Setamancer, which is based off the Dusk Stone. And for today's episode, I once again had my channel members vote between 3 different stones to base a new evolution on. And the options were the Dawn Stone, the Sun Stone, and the Ice Stone. And the winner was the Dawn Stone, which when placed in the hole in Setamite's chest will cause it to evolve into Setaranger. This flying type evolution is known to craft its own arrows out of the hardest of stone materials, which it then launches from the bow-like structure on top of its head. And you may have also noticed the strange shape of Setaranger's hands, as they're actually 2 halves of a scope that when put together give it the perfect way to aim its strike, allowing it to pierce directly through the opponent's weak points no matter how far the distance between them. Huge thank you to all my channel members. I hope you like Setaranger. And if you want to help us decide between the next 3 stones to expose Setamite to, which will now be the Sunstone, the Ice Stone, and the Shiny Stone, then you can look into that by hitting the join button down below. But now let's get back into the third Pokemon. And this one will be for FLP Nippy, who says that we should add a brand new evolution stone called the Space Stone. And I think that's a really good idea, especially because we could use it for a new Setamite evolution. So let me know in the comments if you agree, because if enough people do, I'll definitely make that happen. But anyways, Nippy, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you're going to be a Convergent Evolution. Fun! And it means that now we have to spin this wheel to see what generation of Pokemon will be making a Convergent 4, and it's Gen 3. So of course, now we have to spin this wheel that has every single Gen 3 Pokemon on it, and we got Chaimaka. I feel like that's a pretty forgotten Pokemon, but it definitely has a very unique design, so this should be good. And now let's see what new typing we'll be giving to this Convergent Chaimeko. Your first type is going to be the Grass type. That is interesting for sure, and Grass Psychic type. Chaimeko is already Psychic type, so maybe we should respin, but I'm just gonna roll with it because that seems like an added challenge. And the last step, before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and you do a signature new mechanic. These are always the hardest to do, so not gonna lie, this Pokemon just got pretty difficult. It's time to shake things up. The first stage of your Pokemon is Mockling, the Maraca Pokemon. These Pokemon are known for their intense anger issues. As while normally they're quite docile, the slightest of inconveniences can throw them into a full-blown temper tantrum, which can last for hours at a time. However, these tantrums are at least easy to see coming, as once angered, Mockling will begin to twitch and shake its body around rapidly, producing a low percussive sound, which is actually quite catchy. But once you hear it, don't stay around too long. And upon leveling up with low friendship during the day, it would evolve into Chaimaka. Upon evolution, Chaimaka has split, as it's now composed of 2 entirely separate creatures. And you think that being part of the same entity would cause these 2 to be thicker than thieves, but you'd be very wrong. As while Chaimaka essentially has the attack power of 2 Pokemon, making it a huge threat in battle, it's majorly held back by the fact that the 2 parts are constantly at war with each other, as both halves of Chaimaka want to be in control of the other and decide their moves in combat, leading to them hardly ever working together and occasionally even fighting with each other. And it's this Pokemon's unstable relationship that's reflected in its signature ability, Temper Tandem, which may have one of the most unique new mechanics in the entire series, as when selecting Chaimaka's moves in battle, the player will actually get to make a selection twice. That's right, this Pokemon can use 2 moves per turn. However, the effectiveness of both moves will be halved, making it kinda similar to Mega Kangaskhan's ability Parental Bond. And while this ability is incredibly strong, it does have one major drawback, as if when selecting moves, the player selects 2 different moves, Chaimaka will take a huge amount of recoil damage, as the disagreement between the 2 halves will cause them to momentarily fight with each other, making for an incredibly versatile Pokemon that's only held back by its propensity to get in its own way. In terms of stats, Chaimaka is pretty mid across the board, because I'm scared of it being too OP, which it might still be. We'll have to test it because with an ability that strong, it will definitely be easy to make overpowered. And for the shiny, I went with this light gray color. But that's gonna do it for today's episode, y'all. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe before you go. And if you want to watch more episodes of the Custom Pokemon series, there's a bunch in this playlist. I'm gonna get right back to making some awesome custom Pokemon for you, so I'll see you in the next episode. But until then, peace.